Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today it's freezing. The Scottish weather has just dropped. I'm looking out the window right now. If I glance this way, the whole ground is white. We haven't had any snow yet, but everything is absolutely frozen and it's just taken an absolute dip in temperature. So I'm wearing the comfiest jumper that I could possibly pull on. It's actually from Hollister. I got it recently and I love it. It's perfect for the festive season, but also probably could be worn at other times of the year as well. So I thought it was a good all-rounder. So I have not done a wrap-up video in a while. I haven't done one over the past couple of months because I wanted to save the video to be a little bit longer and a little bit bigger. So today we are going to do my wrap up for October and November, chatting all about the books that I read and sort of what star ratings I gave them, the ones I enjoyed, the ones that I didn't. Let's get into it. I've been filming like a lot of vlogs recently, just like in the background to kind of like bulk out my content a little bit. So I feel like sitting down and just filming a chatty video is really hard for me. This feels really structured and I feel like I sound really robotic and I don't want to be like that, but maybe I'm just more suited to the vlogs and the little chatty updates. But that being said, apologies if I sound a little bit robotic. I'm also super tired today. Okay, so having a little look at my tracker, I have read 11 books in October, so that was a really, really good reading month for me, and I've only read 6 books in November, so it was a little bit of a slower reading month for me. Now, when I'm filming this, I am actually off on annual leave, so we are a couple of days before the end of November, so there is a good chance I'll get another book read in this time, and I have started other books but haven't finished them yet, so the 6 for November could be a little bit bigger by the time that November's finished or November actually comes to a close, but we'll do what we have so far because there would be no point making a wrap up for 6 books, which is why we've merged it with October's, because that just gives us a little bit more. So having a look then at October books. So the first book I read in October was Six Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. So I actually gave this book a 4.7 stars. I love anything that Carissa Broadbent writes. The Serpent and the Wings of Night series is one of my top series of 2024. So I was really excited that the novella came out in a hardback copy so I could get a physical copy of it, and I did really enjoy it. It wasn't as good, it didn't hit just the same as Serpent and the Wings of Night, but it was a really good series and I really enjoyed the novella. So next I have a romance book that I actually give 2 stars, and that is The Breakup Pact by Emma Lord. I got this book as part of my Illumicrate romance subscription. I've actually since cancelled the subscription because the couple of romance books that I got I just didn't really enjoy. So I feel like my type of romance is just a little bit different to the romance that the box was giving. Now this was about 2 really old friends who are slammed by social media for coming out of really bad breakups, and then they find each other again. She owns a tea shop that her sort of late sister initially owned, and it's all about sort of finding yourself and doing what's best for you and falling in love, and it was nice. Don't get me wrong, I did kind of enjoy it, but it was a 2-star for me because unfortunately it just didn't hit properly and it took me ages to get through it. It was such a slog. So the next 3 books on the list then are part of the same series, and that is Skander and the Phantom Rider, Skander and the Chaos Trials, and Skander and the Skeleton Curse. So the Skander and the Unicorn Thief series, that is books 2, 3, and 4. The 4th one actually came out at the start of October and I read it the day it got released. So Skander and the Unicorn Thief is a middle grade series and it's a very, very good middle grade series. I would heavily recommend it if you have read the Percy Jackson series. If you love the Percy Jackson series, I would heavily recommend this one. It does give very similar vibes. It is about kids going and living on an island and racing unicorns, and it's really interesting, and there is of course a villain and something to overcome. We are at the 4th book now. It's just been released and I feel like there is going to be 5 due to the 5 elements in the book, because we've had a book in the colour of each element so far. So there is 4. I don't know when the 5th one, or if there will be a 5th one, when it's going to be released, but I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes. And we just got to the point of being 13, 14, and you're holding hands with a boy for the first time. So the main character, he has just realised that he has a romantic attraction to one of the other characters and he just doesn't know how to handle it. And it's just really sweet and it's just so cute. I really enjoy it. I would heavily recommend. So then we had Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. So this is the first book in the Witches of Thistle Grove series. I give this book a 3-star. It was good. It kind of gave cozy, how do I explain this? It gave a little bit of like cozy Gilmore Girls vibes, I guess, but with like a little bit of witchiness thrown in. It was good. It was a romance, but the romance wasn't like the entire plot of the book, which I thought was kind of weird because it is a romance book, but the romance actually didn't take the forefront, and I definitely was more interested in the plot, and the plot was pushed a little heavier than the romance. So it wasn't awful. I did enjoy it, and I do have the second one on my shelf, which I'll probably save for next October, but I don't think I'm going to be picking it up anytime soon because there's other books that I want to get to. So then we had a 5-star book, and that was Richard Osman's new book, We Solve Murders. Richard Osman is a auto-buy author for me. His Thursday Murder Club books are my favourite, and he's got 4 of them out at the moment. But We Solve Murders is a slightly different book with slightly different characters. It's a new series, so it's about a girl called Amy who is a bodyguard for celebrities and important people, and suddenly she is the target of this murder, and she's the target and she's being framed for murder, and she comes together with the celebrity who is hilarious, the sort of like older lady celebrity. She teams up with her and also her father-in-law to kind of track down and figure out who is framing her for these murders, what's happening, and trying to save herself from being next. Then I read Belladonna. So Belladonna is the first book in the series. I haven't read any of the other ones yet. I think Foxglove is going to be on my list for January or February next year. I read this with one of my podcast besties, Molly. So if you haven't actually heard my podcast yet, when this goes up, I think there will be 3 or 4 episodes already released, which is crazy to say, but I have started a podcast called Fic and Fiction with 2 of my besties, Crimson and Molly, and it was Molly and I that read Belladonna together. So if you do want a new bookish podcast that we just chat about nonsense for an hour at a time every week, I'll leave the link down below. Please come and support us and come and leave some comments. We have a YouTube, a Spotify, and we're on Apple Podcasts, and it would just mean the world if anyone watching this could check us out. Belladonna was a 3-star book for me, which was really disappointing. This book gets so much hype, and unfortunately I just don't think it lives up to the hype that it gets. I thought it was a little bit boring. I was more interested in it towards the very end of the book, so I definitely think I'll read Foxglove because of what happens at the end, but unfortunately getting to the end of that book was just a wee bit of a slog for me. Then we had a 5-star book, and that was Gothic Hannah by Runix. This book was given to me by Olivia, and Olivia, thank you so much. This is a spooky dark academia with romance. Oh my god, I actually don't even know how to explain this book. It's just so good. It is definitely dark academia, spooky, old castle university, hot professor with secrets vibe, and there is like a murderous element, there's like a mystery that needs to be solved. It's perfect. I would 110% recommend you pick it up any time of the year. It doesn't need to be during spooky season. I think it's perfect for any time of the year, so heavily recommend. Similar to the Dark Academia book of Gothic Hannah, I then also read An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. Now, this was a first S.T. Gibson book for me, and it's about a girl called Laura Sheridan who is thrust into an intense academic rivalry with a girl called Carmilla. If anyone knows any Carmilla lore, you'll know that there's vamps in this book. So she goes to this university and she's thrust into this academic rival, and the professor has this like really weird obsession with Carmilla, and then also gets this weird obsession with Laura, and then Laura and Camilla kind of have a bit of a budding romance. It was good. I definitely think I want to read other S.T. Gibson books. I feel like this one might just not be it for me. And coming off such a high that was Gothic Hannah, this one just didn't do it for me. I feel like maybe if I'd left it a little bit longer between Gothic Hannah, maybe read a romance in between, and then came back to An Education of Malice, I might have enjoyed it more. But coming off the high of Gothic Hannah and going into this book, I was just a little bit disappointed. So then I started getting a little bit more into romance. So this is where we reach November. So for the last couple of days in October and the first couple of days in November, I read The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, which is the second book in the Dream Harbour series by Laurie Gilmore. Again, similar to the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, I loved this. It was such a cozy romance to end the Halloween season. Thoroughly enjoyed it. 5 stars. Not gonna say much else. And then for my first actual book in November, I read The Dagger and the Flame by Catherine Doyle. Catherine Doyle and even Catherine Weber, they wrote the Twin Crowns series together, the trilogy, and it is actually one of my favourite trilogies of all time. So anything that either of those authors write, I will be picking up, and I was not disappointed by The Dagger and the Flame. So Catherine Doyle was the author on this one, and it is a enemies to lovers. It is about a girl whose mother is killed, and it's her trying to figure out who did it and why they did it. So there is this magical powder called Shade, and Shade is what her mother kind of specialised in. She sort of almost like made, bottled and sold it, and there are 2 gangs in the local, I want to say city, the Daggers and the Cloaks. So you've got the Daggers who are assassins and the Cloaks who are thieves. So she goes and ends up joining the Cloaks because the Daggers are targeting her and she doesn't really necessarily know why. And it's all about her actually getting a enemies to lovers romance with one of the Daggers. And let me tell you, I was kicking my feet and screaming during this book. And spoiler, skip ahead maybe like 30 seconds if you don't want to hear this bit. But during the book, he says to her, he's like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you." And I immediately was like, yes you are, kill me too please. So 100% recommend. It was a 5-star read for me. It was such a perfect way to start across November, and I cannot wait till the next one. With the way that it ended, I definitely think there's going to be a second one, and it will be an auto buy, drop everything to read it. So enough said. I love it. I want to reread it again. I can't stop thinking about it. So the next book that I read was Twilight. So I had all the Twilight books as a kid, but I've never sat and read like the Twilight series, and I know now that the Twilight series does contain more books than the initial 4. So Molly Crimson and I are going to be buddy reading Twilight, and we just finished the first one. I did read on ahead. I was like finishing the book where the other girls were on chapter like 14, 15, because I forgot to tell them I'd reached the point that they were at. And then I just finished it and they never continued. So I'm waiting on Molly and Crimson to catch up a little bit before we read the next one in the series. But it was a very interesting experience going into Twilight, being an adult with romantic experience and reading experience. I remember Bella being like, I want to be her. I want to have a vampire boyfriend. I want to be in her situation. I want to be the main girl. I find her so annoying in this reread. I find her really whiny. She cries all the time for no reason, and she just makes stupid decisions. Sorry. I also find Edward to be kind of weird, and he kind of gave me the ick. And also, I didn't realise Jacob was 15, which makes me feel even more uncomfortable. So I'm just going to leave it there. I'm sure I'll give you more updates the further I read into the book. So then we are on to the last 4 books that I read in November. So we've got The Prison Healer and The Gilded Cage, which is book 1 and 2 in the Prison Healer series. This series is very good. It does have a little bit of romance, but there's no spice at all. And the romance is very, very slow burn. It's more like friendly than romantic. And in the first book, it is all about a girl who has been sent to prison. She's been in prison since she was 7, and her dad was also sent to prison. He became the prison's healer, and then when he died, she took over as the prison healer, and she basically heals the inmates and sort of gets them ready when they come into the prison. I do have a whole reading vlog on this. It's going to come up, I think, next week. Whenever this video launches, it'll be next week. So if you're interested in seeing me reading the Prison Healer series, feel free to check out that because it was a lot of fun. I gave the first book a 4-star and the second book a 3-star. The reason I gave the second book, which is The Gilded Cage, a 3-star is because it was very, very big but very dragged out. I'm a big believer in fast-paced books. I love a fast-paced book. I think that if you drag it out more than necessary, it gets boring. I don't want to pick it up, and that's exactly what happened with The Gilded Cage. I definitely will pick up the third one. I really want to finish the series. I know it's a trilogy, and I really just want to get it done, so I will pick it up soon. I will probably pick it up in December if I can fit it in, but it was a little bit disappointing coming off the high of the first one. The twists and turns towards the end of the books in this series are very good, and that's what's gripping me and making me want to read the next ones. So I'll give you an update when I eventually finish the series. So then I read Collide. So Collide is a hockey romance. It is about a student who needs to do her sort of graduate, I guess, research paper. I can't remember. But she's doing a research paper and she gets paired up to do it with the captain of the hockey team, the ice hockey team. And she doesn't like ice hockey for personal reasons, which it would be a spoiler if I got into, so I won't. But it's all about sort of like I don't want to say enemies to lovers because they're not necessarily enemies. It's almost like annoying hatred to lovers. So it's all about them sort of like coming together and her getting over her dislike of hockey players, and it's just super cozy and it was a really good time. And the spice is good. The spice is good. So last on the list then, I had Spark of the Everflame, which I read on Kindle Unlimited. Now this book is by Penn Cole, and the reason I read this was because I watch a lot of Emmy Rosam's vlogs, and she recommended this book and said that it was one of the best series that she's read so far, I think in 2024. I agree. I read 10% of this book 2 days ago, and then read the other 90% of this book last night before bed. I could not put it down. Heavily recommend. It is all about I want to say the easiest way to explain it is it's about a city and there are mortals and the descended, and the descended all have like different colour eyes, but mortals all have brown eyes. And the descended have almost like magical powers, and there's different realms within the world, and depending where the descended are born, they have these different magical powers. I won't go totally into it, but it's all about a mortal girl whose mother goes missing, and she ends up she's a healer as well. Healer seems to be the theme for November. But she wants to find out where her mother's gone, and she remembers her mother talking to this guy, and she's trying to like hunt him down to find some answers. So it's very, very good. I finished the book and I am like, give me the next one. And I'm really lucky because the next book in the series is actually out, so I can pick it up immediately. And I think that there's 3, and I feel like the third one is also out, so I will hopefully be reading those very, very soon. 5 stars from me, definitely. So that is all I have for you today. If you would like to comment any of the books that you read during October and November, I would love to hear your best books in October or November. And if you read any of the same books as me, or you have read any of the books, I would love to know your thoughts on them, because I just need someone to talk to about these books that's read them. So thank you so much for watching, and I believe that the next video I post will be my reading vlog for The Prison Healer, so I hope that you enjoy that. And as I said, the podcast that I have launched with my besties Molly and Crimson will be linked below as well. I would love it if you supported us. It would mean the world to me, and it would mean the world to them as well. So I will catch you in another video. Bye!